All right, guys, we're back for another episode of Monday Mids. And as you can hear, my voice is destroyed. But if I put off filming and releasing this video, my inconsistency will take over. So we're just going to soldier through this. Now, as usual, the rules are simple. I'll use a random letter generator. I'll take that letter to myanimelist. I'll go through my personal watch list. And I will only evaluate the 5s and 6s on the list that line up with that letter. We won't look at any 10s or big name anime that get high ratings. We're going to focus solely on overlooked mids. So let's get right into it. Now, when the spinner picked I was initially happy because I know there are lots of mid-level anime that fall into that category on my list. But it was a different kind of issue because it means that there are a lot of anime that I need to decide to pick one from, not knowing when the spinner will give me I ever again. So with that being said, I bring to you this. Now, like most modern isekai anime especially, the title tells you exactly what you're getting yourself into. I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world too. And I'm going to be honest with you, this anime is one of my hidden gems. I wouldn't recommend it willingly to most people, but I like this one a lot. The premise for this anime is that the main character, Yuya Tenjo, is a bullied, overweight high schooler, and he discovers a mysterious door in his house that leads to another world, which is the isekai element. In that world, he gains access to game-like leveling, skills, and overpowered equipment. Now, this is not a new premise in that people go to another world. It is literally the entire foundation of isekai. I've even seen other isekai where eventually at the end of the journey or the premise is that these people returned from the isekai world, and in some cases they have a school set up for isekai children. So returning is not exactly a new concept either. But this anime was the first time where I saw that the main character or characters in general could just go back and forth between the real and isekai world as they see fit and on a whim. And not only that, but they allow isekai characters to come to the real world as well. This back and forth means that he also carries his skills back and his overpoweredness, and anything that he gains in the isekai world, he can bring it back to the real world. And if he doesn't want to bring it back to the real world, he can also exchange these items for cash. So it is honestly just your dream scenario in this case of isekai tropes. Now, the core concept is that he levels up in the fantasy world and he's able to take this back to the real world. So this transforms his appearance, his strength, and eventually his confidence and social skills. It's like a combination between isekai and real life glow up. Now, admittedly, the story progression, especially in the first season, is nothing special. Yuya basically goes about training in the fantasy world to level up. He comes back to modern Japan with his superhuman abilities and transformed body every time he needs to return to school in his regular life. And his life flips from being a bullied outcast to being like one of the hottest guys in his city. Like, his life just completely transformed, and the glow up is actually like the part that I like the most. He balances school life, like he's trying to continue living his regular life, and he tries to balance that with his new relationships that his popularity brings, and with the fact that he wants to constantly return to the fantasy world and engage in dangerous fights. The themes are not overly complex. This is an extreme wish fulfillment or self-improvement fantasy anime because of the... Well, I'm going to put some of the clips. The glow up is actually incredibly crazy. But the other themes are escaping abuse and redefining their identity, and external change leading to internal growth. The tone is very heavy power fantasy. Like, this is probably an edgelord's dream, to be honest with you. And the rewards are quite rapid. There's no long climbing up the mountain before the payoff. Like, immediately, my boy is here. It's a mix of school life and social drama in the real world and action and adventure in the fantasy world. It's a classic loser to overpowered protagonist story, but the twist is that instead of just completely leaving the real world behind and living out his life in the isekai world, he brings his cheat abilities back and dominates both worlds. Now, I'm just going to keep it 100 and tell you exactly why this series gets such mixed reactions. First, this is extreme wish fulfillment, even by isekai standards. Yuya doesn't just improve, he maxes out everything and very, very quickly in terms of appearance, strength, and social success. People immediately admire him in both worlds. For some viewers, this is a satisfying fantasy. For others, it feels unearned and unrealistic. So that's why this story ends up falling in the middle of most ratings. Some people love it, or some people are like, nah, this is boring. The second reason is that the power scaling feels like and seems like it has almost no ceiling. So for that reason, conflicts rarely feel dangerous. Yuya often wins easily and gains huge rewards immediately. And this results in low tension. The stakes don't feel very meaningful. I know that everybody knows in the back of their mind that in 90% of all shows, the main character is not going to die. They're going to win in the end somehow, some way. But most good series still sell you this tension, this idea that he might fall, he might die, he might stumble. But you know my boy Yuya is just going to straight up drop people. It's not even a question. The third reason is that a lot of people really don't like the fact that Yuya is just immediately loved and accepted by everybody the moment he transforms. Many characters react to Yuya with either instant admiration or like over-the-top shock at everything he does. And they repeat this quite often, so if this kind of trope or idea is not to your liking, immediately you're not going to like the series. Some see it as fun, others see it as repetitive and shallow writing. Another reason is that the dual world concept feels underused to some people. The idea is strong that the two worlds are influencing each other, but execution often focuses more on the power fantasy moments than deep consequences of these two worlds interacting. People think there's a lot of missed potential for psychological impact, and there are some real-world complications of having godlike power that don't get explored or addressed. Finally, a lot of people had a lot of problems with the tone inconsistency because the bullying and abuse at the beginning it's really tough to watch. Some of it is like depicted very seriously, and some users describe feeling trauma from their bullied past or their abused past, and then suddenly just switches into light, almost comedic admiration scenes. Some people found this shift to be quite jarring. So, having covered basically the plot, premise, and themes, we reach our score for this section. Realistically, it should be a 5, but I gave it a 6 because I liked that it might be done in other shows, I don't know. But this is the first time I've seen this concept of being able to jump back and forth at will between the two worlds. Now, full disclaimer, if you don't like harem light, bordering on harem-themed animes in terms of cast composition, this anime is definitely not for you. We have the main character, Yuya, who is basically as described. He's formerly of low self-worth, very bullied, suddenly becomes basically physically perfect and slowly gains confidence, but he remains a kind and humbled person. The key core of his character is that even after becoming overpowered, he doesn't become arrogant. I guess he's basically designed to be a pure-hearted, ideal protagonist so that people don't feel like he doesn't deserve the power he got. but that means that there's not much twists and turns in terms of character development. Now, I'm just going to get the other side characters out of the way before returning to what are essentially the female co-leads and basically Yuya's harem. And we have Knight, who is a Fenrir animal that he rescued from the other world and brought back to his home. He also has Akatsuki, which is another undetermined animal from the isekai world. Both of these serve as pet or mascot characters, despite the fact that they actually have combat ability and assist him in fights. They're very minor in the sense that they don't influence character development in any real way. They just kind of exist to populate the world. At the beginning, there was a very big focus on his family, and they're basically minor antagonists in the fact that they're the ones doing most of the bullying and mistreatment of Yuya at the beginning. But after he resolves things with them, they kind of just fade into nothingness and they stop eventually really being seen. So they're really super minor characters. Eventually he makes some male friends, but they kind of just exist to also populate the world and support him within the scenes that they are. They kind of serve as even though that these two guys are elite in their own ways, they still compare nothing to Yuya in terms of what he's capable of. This brings us to the female leads. We have Kaori, who is actually the first girl he saves when he's still a fat loser. And even after his transformation, she immediately recognizes him and invites him to join her school, which is a big plot point in terms of him joining a new school, meeting new people, starting a new life. Kaori is basically just like the perfect girl in the fact that she's wealthy, elegant, highly respected, and just has basically only positive qualities. She develops feelings for him pretty early. It's like an obvious fact that she's an established romantic interest that's also there to support him. The next female lead is actually a princess from the other world, Lexia von Arcelia. And Yuya rescues her while training out in the forest. And she is the exact opposite of Kaori. Whereas Kaori is like reserved and polite and more sedentary in terms of approaching Yuya, Lexia just straight up comes out with the fact that she likes him and she wants him. So she's like the night and day response to Kaori in terms of other female romantic interest. There are a few other female characters that get decent amount of screen time, like Luna, who is another girl from the isekai world who I won't get into her because she's a minor plot point. And there are also some other girls at his school like Kaede and Yukine that get a certain amount of screen time, but none of them are really major characters. The two major players in this sense are Kaori and Lexia. Characters, I'm going to be honest, like this is a 5, like bordering on being a 4. Now, given how average this story and anime is, the animation is actually quite incredible, especially the drawings. How they draw the characters' eyes in this anime is incredible. And the fight scenes are pretty decent. I mean, it's not like JJK or like Attack on Titan. It's not like Mappa going crazy, but for what you imagine the budget to be, it's actually pretty good, and the drawings are solid. And like I said, the eyes are... You need to see some still shots of these eyes, just to be honest with you. I'd say it's like a 7, maybe an 8 actually. It's either a high 7 or a very low 8. That brings us to our final score. Like I said, the math does not math when I reach the final score. Realistically, this anime is probably a 5, but I give it that +1 rating, bringing it up to a 6, just because I like seeing my boy get that glow up. And there's some things that I think I enjoy personally. Maybe other people won't see it, but realistic score is 5. My score is 6. Enjoy or not. I'll leave that with you.